Hey guys, and welcome to the Working Money channel. So I've got Bitcoin on the hourly up right now, and guys, as you can see, we have seen a bit of a slide with Bitcoin, and we tend to rarely see this as Bitcoin is sliding down. XRP is moving up, as you can see in the trend here. And guys, this is being reflected in the BTC dominance number. So now back down to 69%. The market cap is at 265.1 billion. Bitcoin trading at about 10,200. Ethereum 198, up 2.2%. XRP trading at 0.266, up 1.44%. So could we be hitting that Bitcoin dominance threshold? Let me just bring up the Bitcoin dominance chart here. And guys, as you can see on the hourly, Bitcoin dominance has gone down a little bit. You can get a better interpretation of that on the daily. So this line here represents the 70% mark, give or take. Bitcoin went up as high as 73.4. So these numbers, by the way, are a little off as it seems. And this is delayed too. So we don't really know exactly what the number is at this particular moment. We don't have real-time quotes, but guys, as you can see here on the daily, Bitcoin dominance has slowly been dropping. The highs are getting higher, but not by much. As you can see back at the beginning of the trend, the highs were getting higher quicker. And now this high versus this high, not as much of a difference. And we're starting to see Bitcoin dominance come back down. Could that mean the beginning of a bit of an alt season? Perhaps. Could we see altcoins surge a little bit? Perhaps. So now would be the time, if you guys have altcoins that you're just kind of sick of and you just want to dump, now would be the time, or at least keep your eye on it. Guys, this is not financial advice. I'm just telling you what I would do if I were in your shoes, if I had altcoins that I was not happy with. Maybe a little Tron, maybe a little XLM, maybe a little EOS. I don't know what you guys hold. But once you start seeing that dominance go down, now's the time to convert your altcoins to Bitcoin because you'll get that better return. And you'll see that in Binance. I don't know if you guys have noticed that when you have altcoins, it'll tell you the value that you have. I don't have the tab up right now, but it'll tell you the value that you have in Bitcoin of your altcoins. And when you start seeing that number climb, you can tell that your altcoin's value is worth more in Bitcoin. And so if you want to convert to Bitcoin, because you know Bitcoin's the leader, you'll make more money off of Bitcoin sooner. And if you're in that hurry, if you're in that rush, and you start seeing your altcoin value rise, if you were to cash out in Bitcoin, that's what you got to keep your eye on. I saw this here from Cointelegraph. Bitcoin addresses worth $100,000 or more hits an all-time high. So the number of Bitcoin wallet addresses holding a minimum of 10 BTC, guys, only 10, worth over $100,000 to press time, has hit an all-time high. Multiple data sources reveal. More and more people are loading up on Bitcoin and altcoins. According to BitInfo charts, Bitcoin rich list as of September 17th, there was 157,210 addresses holding between 10 and 1 million BTC. Well, that's a huge range, isn't it? Earlier this month, Coinmetrics State of the Network report had plotted the latest data historically to reveal that these mega holders are at an all-time high for the network. So guys, what does that tell you? Don't worry that it's Bitcoin. What it tells you is that cryptocurrencies, in my opinion, are about to soar very soon. Holders are at an all-time high. This is not just retail mom and pop holders, guys. This is everybody who has a Bitcoin address. So, those companies who are holding custody for their clients, retail investors, bigger investors, everybody who's been eyeing this space has now stocked up and they're ready to get rich, baby. Just going to go down here in this article, gives you a little bit more information. I will link this article in the description. The top 1%, and so get this, guys, parallel to data on these Bitcoin mega holders, XRP users have been circulating metrics for the token this week, revealing that holders of 70,000 XRP or above, worth about 18,900 at press time, qualify as falling within the top 1% of XRP holders. So that number used to be a lot lower, if my memory serves me correctly. Now it is at 70,000 XRP. If you have 70,000 or more XRP, you are in the top 1%. So very interesting information here. And I'm sure you've heard about this here, why we are giving away $100 million to creators with Mozilla and Creative Commons. This is a Coil initiative. So now Ripple giving money to Coil now giving money to other companies to further the web monetization initiative. And so in this blog post, they talk a little bit about the internet. So a little over 2 decades ago, in March of 1998, Netscape released the source code to its Navigator browser on Mozilla.org. And so they talk about over the last 20 years how open source has slowly taken over the browser market. Last year, Microsoft announced their intention to use and contribute to the open source Chromium project instead of continuing to build on their own proprietary layout engine. So open source becoming more of an option for developers instead of, here's my browser and here's my browser and here's my browser. Instead, let's just build on the most popular one. So essentially what this blog post is talking about is the fact that money transfers or transferring value has not been the same. And now through this initiative, they are pushing to open up the space so that developers can build within the ecosystem and use the Interledger and XRP to transfer value for those web monetization payments, those micropayments. Again, guys, this is an interesting concept for artists because there's been such a breakdown. Everything's been moving to the web and, traditionally musical artists, bands, groups, whatever, and even content creators, right? People in TV and film slowly seeing their industries change. So web monetization becoming a big thing. And so Coil, together with Mozilla and Creative Commons, is launching a $100 million grant for the web to benefit creators and promote the open web monetization standard. And again, guys, this will be using XRP, just part of the ecosystem. So really interesting information here. I'll link this in the description if you want to read further. I saw this and I thought this was kind of funny. I kind of had this in the back of my head this whole time, but didn't want to mention it because people would probably slam me in the comments. Attempt to fork XRP will likely fail, says blockchain researcher. And you guys remember this from last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever we were talking about this, whenever BitLord came up with his half-baked idea to fork the XRP blockchain? Well, a blockchain researcher says a potential fork of the third largest cryptocurrency by market cap will likely struggle to gain traction. An influencer named Crypto BitLord is trying to mobilize his 102,000 followers on Twitter into creating a fork of the open source digital asset. Although anyone can fork XRP in the same way Bitcoin has been forked many times over, a blockchain researcher at consulting firm Sabir tells Cointelegraph the effort is a major long shot, and so he explains the following. You can just take the source code and start your own chain. The only problem is whether you can convince the Ripple validators to convert to your chain. The chief crypto analyst at Weiss Ratings, Juan Villaverde, also has his doubts. He says that the fact that supporters of the fork haven't been able to push up the price of XRP speaks volumes. Fact of the matter is these folks don't have enough purchasing power to support the market price of the current XRP token. There's no reason to believe they'd fare any better by simply forking the XRP ledger. Again, guys, I said this was a half-baked idea when I heard it, and clearly the experts in blockchain are agreeing. So BitLord has vowed to launch. So again, it talks a little bit about what BitLord is doing. But guys, no fear for those of you who are a little worried about this XRP fork. It doesn't seem like it's going to fly, at least according to the experts. And so it'll probably die before it's even born. Then I saw this, guys, from the Daily Hodl as well. And this is the fact that, so originally I saw this article, rumors of Ripple and Coinbase partnership spreading after the conference in Paris. And so this is essentially what this article is about, but I found something a little more interesting within this article regarding Breanne Madigan's, what she says regarding XRP liquidity and the demand for XRP once the liquidity keeps building. And so the Daily Hodl here linked a tweet from XRP Research Center, that's at XRP Center on Twitter. Very interesting. Let me just play you a little bit of this here.
Send MoneyGram's flow to one of what we call our sort of originating exchanges, say it's Coinbase in the US as an example. The US dollars get swapped to XRP there, and then they get sent across border to a local exchange in Mexico, call it Bitso in this example. Bitso then takes that XRP and swaps it into local Mexican pesos, and that consumer or MoneyGram's end consumer client will receive Mexican pesos directly. And so we delivered significant cost savings to MoneyGram in that example, significant efficiency, and so that's a real value proposition to a company that's affecting the end consumers because their fees will be lowered as a result. And so as we scale XRapid on-demand liquidity product, we're launching in new corridors. And what we now need to look at is, okay, before we launched MoneyGram, we were looking at what is the current liquidity of XRP versus USD and XRP versus Mexican peso trading on Bitso at that point, and call it $500,000 a day. Well, if we want to start sending 10 and then getting to 50 and then getting to 100, how are we scaling that liquidity? And so we've been strategically partnering with a number of market makers.
Okay, so do you guys get that first part? How do they scale the liquidity? Right now, let's call it $500,000 a day. Great, they're fine. They have enough liquidity on the exchange. But how do they start fulfilling demand when it goes to $5, $10, $50 million? And she's saying right here, partnering with market makers. Okay, guys, let me bring it back.
$500,000 a day. Well, if we want to start setting 10 and then getting to 50 and then getting to 100, how are we scaling that liquidity? And so we've been strategically partnering with a number of market makers around how do we establish contracts and incentives for people to want to engage so that as we send more volume through these channels, there is depth of liquidity in the process that we need to support that flow. But the way that we've structured these contracts is such that we leave an opportunity for new liquidity participants to have incentive to enter. And so we're starting to see already, even in the last month since we launched MoneyGram into that corridor, a number of new liquidity participants are realizing there is a real arbitrage opportunity. We don't have to then pay to incentivize people to make markets because there's significant volume going.
Significant, so she ends up saying significant volume going through. Don't have to pay people to incentivize them because there's already a reward. When there is deep liquidity, there is a demand for XRP. Therefore, the price of XRP will eventually go up once that volume is solidified. Guys, it's kind of a bit of a weird concept to wrap your head around. But to make it easy for you guys who, just want to understand the basics, the more demand that there is for XRP, the more XRP is needed, the more market makers are needed to fulfill that deep liquidity, as Breanne Madigan points out. And so if these corridors move up from that $500,000 mark and start moving $5 or $10 or $50 million, you have the market makers selling their XRP at whatever the market commands. Right now, it might be 27 cents. In the future, it might be $5. And down the road, it might be $50. We don't know today because those volume numbers are still a big question mark, or still a big X factor. But guys, here it is here, Breanne Madigan explaining to you how XRP will be used in cross-border transfers and how there will be a demand for XRP going down the road. Anyways, that's just my opinion, but I want to hear what you guys think. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video if you like the content I'm providing. I always love hearing your comments. See you in the next one, guys.